So right off the bat, the rules are written so broadly that it's hard to conceive of anything that isn't caught by the constraints imposed by the regime. What's most important about TILMA is that it includes an enforcement mechanism that goes beyond anything that can be found in any provincial agreement, interprovincial agreement ever negotiated in Canada, because it allows private parties, companies, and even individuals to seek dispute resolution under the regime whenever governments offend these broad and sweeping, ill-defined, and unprecedented constraints. And when they bring forward a complaint, the complaint isn't resolved by a provincial court or a public body. It's resolved by a semi-private arbitral tribunal operating under international laws with respect to the resolution of arbitral disputes. The process doesn't admit a participation of environmental organizations or trade unions that may be concerned about the public policies and laws that may be targeted by those private claims. And when those claims succeed, and the province or the municipality is told to remove the offending measure, the zoning bylaw or the preferential purchasing policies that Paul referred to, or the heritage protection measures or the business subsidies that are put in place because the community wants them and because it's important for urban renewal. Where the municipality refuses to remove the measure, the province refuses to remove the measure, the tribunals are obligated to give damages to the private complainant. The constraint on which is only that $5 million. You can't award more than $5 million in damages with respect to any particular impugned measure. Every element of a zoning bylaw or every element of a procurement policy that offends these constraints is vulnerable to those types of sanctions. So we've got an executive agreement without any parliamentary authority, posing broad, untested, unprecedented constraints on the exercise of all public authority that attracts that type of legal liability. So what do the provinces who engaged, as Paul indicated, in no prior consultation with municipalities or anyone else before entering into this agreement say to these criticisms? Our opinions out there, and the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives has done some work on this, and of course, as Paul mentioned, various municipalities have raised very substantial concerns about this regime. What are the provincial governments saying? Well, very little. In Alberta, almost nothing. In BC, more. In BC, the Premier says, well, you know, we didn't intend to impose that kind of sweeping constraint. We don't think that's what the rules mean. Well, you know, I'm a lawyer. I'm not a mind reader. All I can go by is what the provisions of the text actually provide. And that, of course, will be the measure of the adjudication that's carried out by these private tribunals, and ultimately the courts, if they're called upon to review, though they only have a limited authority to do that, the decisions of the private tribunals. Paul's giving you some very good examples of what this means in terms of the exercise of municipal authority. Well, I was getting ready for the press conference today. I know that TILMA specifically binds school boards. So I thought, well, there might be a question about, well, what might be constrained by TILMA rules in that regard. But if you think about, the answer to the question is whatever's controversial, that's going to be the target. So school boards banning junk food in the schools. School boards insisting on perhaps banning the use of pesticides on school property. School boards now are going to be put to the test, perhaps, of having to justify the qualifications they require of teachers, because you have to, under TILMA, recognize the qualifications of the province, of the other province, or the other provinces you enter into the regime with. In BC, you've got higher measures of teacher qualification and training. I think it's a 5-year training program than in Alberta. So the question is, well, how does BC justify that additional requirement? Because it's obliged to accept the standards established by the other province. So the shoe might be on the other foot in other contexts as well. So those are the kinds of things that are at issue in consequence of this regime. And to this point, it's flying too far below the radar screen. And the public hearings that Paul announced that the province of Saskatchewan is committed to, of course, should have been carried out in BC and Alberta before this instrument was established or implemented any further. And I suppose the last thing I will say that's significant about the regime, just as an introduction, is that in terms of municipalities and their obligations under the agreement, BC has said to municipalities, well, don't worry, you can't be sued directly under TILMA. And that's true. Only the provincial government can be sued directly under TILMA. And the damage awards that the tribunals can give are only given against the provincial government. But as the municipalities of Vancouver and an opinion for the UBCM point out, there are lots of ways in which the provincial government can recover those funds from municipalities. If they're punished for something that a municipality has done, they can subtract the money from transfers, they can supersede the municipal measure with provincial legislation. And so the UBCM wrote a letter to the Premier of British Columbia to say, look, are you going to seek indemnity from us if something we do that's utterly lawful, utterly constitutional, something that the people who elected us wanted us to do, attracts an adverse ruling under TILMA and damages award as a result? And the province says, well, that's difficult to know in advance of the event happening. So if you expected some assurance for the provinces that municipalities weren't going to be on the hook, it's not there. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Turn them over to others on the panel.
Thank you, Stephen. Just before we go to that, Alderman Helen LaRocque is with us today. We're very happy she's here. She tells me she has questions, but she might have a few comments, and then we'll open the floor.
Well, first, let me say thank you for inviting me to participate in your press conference, and also wanted to thank CUPE for taking a lead on asking the question, how will TILMA apply, especially in light of municipalities. Just about 6 weeks ago, there was a question asked to our law department at the City of Calgary in regards to how it will impact us, and we're still waiting for that answer. And certainly I'm not an expert myself in regards to how that will impact us. So we rely on our own legal department to be able to provide us some opinions, and they've yet to do that. But once they do, I'm more than happy to share that with CUPE. And of course, they've taken the lead to get the legal opinions. So from the little that I know at this point, I have concerns about the constraints of our ability as a municipal government to have independence in making decisions. So certainly we'll be looking for more details from our legal department to answer how that will impact us. And certainly we also had concerns about the fact that there was no prior consultation with municipalities and how that will impact us. So certainly, again, just want to thank CUPE for taking that lead with asking that question. So.
Thank you very much, Helen. Claude?
Yeah, I'll do that rapidly in French because Radio-Canada is here, and if they want to be in a better position to ask questions to Steven, it'd be nice if we could give some backdrop like Paul did. Alors, merci beaucoup pour les médias francophones qui se sont pointés ici dans le sud de l'Alberta. Bonjour. Nous tenons un point de presse aujourd'hui avec vous dans le cadre de la réunion la plus importante de tout le monde municipal à travers le Canada. C'est l'ouverture de la Fédération canadienne des municipalités qui tient ses assises annuelles. Et l'ouverture se fait dans quelques minutes. C'est l'un des 3 ordres du gouvernement au Canada les plus importants, les plus significatifs, qui fait que le Canada est ce qu'il est.